First Paw Media. You are listening to Mushing on First Paw Media. Visit our website at mushing.com.
Hello and welcome, everybody. This is Robert, and you are listening to our continuing coverage of the 2024 Iditarod on the Burled Arch podcast, and we are at the Mushing Magazine World Headquarters in Willow, Alaska, and I am joined tonight by my co-host, Michelle. How's it going?
It's going great, Robert. Lots of things happened today. Let's get to it.
Yes, we are happy to announce that we just finished up our round of teaching dog mushing at the two local universities here in Alaska, and it could not have been a better day here in Willow. Beautiful bluebird skies, perfect trail conditions. Everything was very, very nice out there, and I saw Travis Beals coming into Caltag, and boy, was he coming in fast. We're going to talk about that in just a second, but where are folks currently at on the trail? It is about 5:30 here on Saturday evening. In first place at mile 641, 334 miles to go, is Travis Beals. He's also taken his 8-hour rest. Remember, you have to take an 8-hour rest on the Yukon River. We have Jesse Holmes, who has also taken that 8-hour rest, in second. Paige Drobny, surprisingly, is in third. Matt Hall in fourth. Ryan Reddington in fifth. Dallas Seavey in sixth. Everybody has taken their 8-hour rests there. And in the back of the pack, we have Bryce Mumford, who has taken his 24, but he has not quite reached the Yukon yet, so he's not to Ruby yet. Then we have Joshua Robbins, Connor McMahon, and Laura Eklund are in the back of the pack. Now, what's interesting here is Bryce Mumford is about 180 miles behind Travis Beals. So we talked in the last couple of days that everybody was pretty close, but unfortunately, there are some gaps developing there between the front and the back of the pack. And in just a couple of days, 3-4 days, I guess it would be now, since it is Saturday night, we should have a winner in Nome. And could it be somebody else, a new champion, or could it be Dallas, Pete Kaiser, Ryan Reddington, somebody that has won it before? It will be interested to see how that develops. So, Michelle, before we jump into our story of the day, any other news and notes?
My only news and notes is, my goodness, there seems to be so much going on. I am excited about this Iditarod, as I mentioned yesterday. I know we're not talking really about standings and stuff like that, but you know, Robert, it's truly phenomenal to see mushers on the trail at this juncture without any scratches and minimal return dogs.
Yeah, and I'm reading the Eye on the Trail. That is great reporting, and I believe it's a podcast as well. And the folks are saying it's an absolutely beautiful run up the Yukon. Looking at some photos, they look like airplane photos. Yeah, it looks exactly like I remember it when I've been out there, and you can really see just the expanse of the Yukon by looking at some of those photos over on Iditarod.com, especially if you are part of the Insider. So let's talk a little bit about one of the other awards. This is called the Bristol Bay Native Corporation Fish First Award, and it is given to the first musher into Caltag. And as we said, that was Travis Beals coming in hot into Caltag. That is getting off the Yukon, and then you're going to work your way up the Caltag Portage, and then work your way over to the coast. And if you're not familiar with the Bristol Bay Corporation, that is in Western Alaska. And I would bet if you have had Alaska salmon, you have had Alaska salmon from Bristol Bay. It's one of the main places where Alaskan salmon is harvested from. So this award consists of 25 pounds of fresh Bristol Bay salmon fillet. So it's all set up for you. So this, I would assume, is for people eating. It is not for dog eating because we typically feed the whole fish and we cut it up into steaks, bones and all. So they also get $2,000 and a wood-burned art piece by Bristol Bay Native Corporation shareholder Apoyak Moore. So that's pretty cool. I love when they give out the native gifts along the trail, and I know that those are very well treasured and cherished by all the mushers that get those. And they typically give these handmade items, whether it's wood-burned items like this, or hats, or gloves, or mucklucks, or other pieces of art. Very cool for sure. And remember, guys, we've talked about sometimes this is strategy for obtaining some of these awards. Sometimes folks know they have a offshoot chance of winning, so they will boogie up down the trail and get some of these awards and these cash prizes because they know that they could potentially make a little bit more than they could earn as one of the mushers that crosses under the arch and is in the running. I don't think that's the case with Travis Beals. He is doing very well this year. He is doing so well that he's right there in first place, of course, in order to get this award. So way to go, Travis. I think that is going to be a nice little award to have when you get back home. I think that they are currently living in Knik, Alaska, so they will be able to enjoy 25 pounds of salmon. So I think, what is that, about 25 dinners, Michelle? Don't we typically eat about a pound or so of salmon when we cook it?
Probably. We probably have a tendency to eat a little bit more salmon than we probably should in a serving, because we enjoy it so much, and we do share a little bite or two with our house Siberians. But yeah, I would say that's probably close to 25-ish servings.
So also another Alaskan side of this note, for many years, a lot of dog mushers were able to get quite a bit of fish to feed their sled dogs. A lot of people used the big fish wheels. I'm sure you've seen those on the internet or social media, these huge Ferris wheel looking contraptions that go through the water and then sort of pick up fish as they're going, and then they're able to be harvested hundreds of pounds a year. And unfortunately, in recent years, the salmon runs have not been as good as they've been in the past. So a lot of those fish wheels have been shut down, and they have not been able to harvest the salmon like they should in current years. So unfortunately, that is not how it used to be. So a lot less fish, which equals a lot more other types of meat and a lot more kibble. Michelle, let's talk a little bit about that for just a second. It has been one heck of a year in order to get meat and sometimes even kibble up here in the Matsu Valley. Can you break that down a little bit for folks that are listening outside, and just how difficult is it to get food for our dogs sometimes?
Well, we don't operate or own the local feed store, but there were logistical issues throughout COVID due to restrictions in trucking across Canada and getting the product up and out of the lower 48. Most of our meat product comes from a couple of farms, I believe, out of Wisconsin and Minnesota, and possibly North Dakota, but I believe those are the three states that we typically get the meat from, or that the feed store gets the meat from. We have two main feed stores here in Alaska: Cold Spot Feeds in Fairbanks and Underdog Feeds in Wasilla, as well as the Alaska Mill and Feed. Alaska Mill and Feed, as far as I know, no longer really offers the raw meat options for dog mushers. That's simply not something that they are carrying any longer. And it's not just dog mushers that purchase the raw varieties of food, whether it be salmon meal, chicken, egg meal, beef, those varieties are also being purchased by people that feed raw to their pet dogs. And I know this firsthand because a lot of my dog training clients through Alaska Dog Works really do shop for raw food products at Underdog Feeds in Wasilla. And I was being contacted personally about the availability of the food and the lack of the availability of the food over this past season from the fall into and up to right around Iditarod time. We were struggling to keep our freezers full, whether we had sled dogs in recreational or competition or just pet dogs with raw food diets. It was very difficult to get that food. And from what I understood, it had to do with logistics. It had to do with trucking operations. It had to do with the cost of gas, trucks breaking down. The weather was extreme this year between December through February, and that posed a lot of problems.
Yeah, it was so bad that on a couple of occasions, they would say that dog food is going to be here at 10 o'clock on Tuesday, and people would line up at the local feed store. And it was like back in the day when we would show up early to buy concert tickets, and it was literally first come, first serve. I remember both Nicole, our daughter, and Michelle would line up for 2 or 3 hours in very cold temperatures and wait for the food to show up. And then you could only buy it at that point. They didn't take pre-orders. So we would get what we had to do and hopefully everybody else, but they would sell out that day and then they would be out for a couple of weeks and we'd have to do the same thing over. And we're mentioning this today because this is a big deal in the dog mushing community. I don't think a lot of people understand just how difficult it is to get a lot of things to Alaska. Not only is it very expensive, but just the logistical nightmares that can come in, whether you're getting dog food or groceries or anything else. Every single thing that comes up has to come up by truck or by boat, and a little bit of it by air. So everything has to be shipped up here, obviously. For perspective, we have 35-ish dogs in our kennel, and we feed the same diet all year long, and we spend just about $2,000 a month just in dog food, $24,000 a year, and we are not even Iditarod mushers. So if you have a larger kennel of, say, 60 dogs, that will go to $4,000. If you have 100 dogs, oh my goodness, what is that? $5,000 or $6,000 or maybe $7,000 in food. And that's where a lot of money goes in the dog mushing budget for sure. That does not include any vet care. That does not include any supplements. That is straight meat and kibble. And where does that all go? Pretty much turns into dog poop. So we're spending $2,000 a month in dog poop. So that is a lot. And I'm sure that puts some perspective for a lot of folks for sure. So Michelle, any other news and notes before we drop a clip of one of our musher interviews?
Well, Robert, I want to go back a little bit. A lot of people don't understand, why don't we have our own ability to get like chicken and beef products up here? We just simply don't have the ability to farm for it. Robert mentioned how much it costs, but he didn't mention how much pounds of food we feed our dogs on a daily basis.
I think we feed about 40-ish pounds of meat and about 20 pounds of kibble. We do it all by coffee can measurements and half tubes and all that, but I think it equals about 40 and 20. So,
and that's per day.
Per day. And that's a lot of food. And every single musher is doing the exact same thing. Of course, some are feeding more kibble or more meat or more supplements or whatever. But nowadays, as we mentioned at the top of this story, fish is not like it used to be. And I know it is much, much more expensive as you get off the road system, in particular in Western Alaska and along the rivers. And that's simply why there are not any dog teams anymore in a lot of rural Alaska areas. I know there's quite the scene over in Western Alaska and Bethel and all of that, but literally out on the Yukon and pretty much anywhere off the road system. There just is not the dog teams like we had. So Michelle, let's drop that first clip of one of your musher interviews. Tonight, we're going to hear from Connor McMahon. He is a rookie from Canada, and he was on our sister podcast called CC Tales with my buddy Dan Kirkup, who just jumped into podcasting a couple of years ago, and he had Connor on his show. And if you want to hear an extended interview, I think it's about 45 minutes to an hour. You can find that right over on mushing.com. So let me drop that clip and hope you enjoy it.
Good morning. I'm Michelle with Mushing Magazine. Who are you?
I'm Connor McMahon from Yukon, Canada.
Hi, Connor. Is this your first Iditarod?
Yeah, this is my rookie year.
And what are you most excited about the race?
Just to be on that trail, right? It's a pretty historic trail. A lot of legends have been down it before. So to get out there and, share the trail, there are a bunch of legends here too. So
yeah, and it sounds like we got a little bit of a trail report from a handler that came over, and she said that there's possibility of a moose out there in Squintna. I'm pretty sure it'll be along on its way by the time you guys get there. Are you concerned about any of those kind of obstacles out there on the trail?
no, not more than I ever am, right? 1,000 possibilities of what we could run into out of there, and I don't think about it much until the time comes where I need to think about it. So yeah.
Yeah, excellent. And what is your favorite checkpoint, or what checkpoint do you think that you want to get to?
I'm pretty excited to see the coast and stuff like that. Yeah. So
Excellent. And what is one of the things that you must have in your bag?
Leatherman.
Leatherman. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I do appreciate you taking the time, and I wish you luck on this year's race. You're going to do great.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So there you have it. Connor McMahon from Canada, rookie here on Iditarod, doing pretty good. I think he's going to have a very good run into Nome. We wish him the best for sure. And again, make sure you check his interview out over on CC Tales, right over on mushing.com. Michelle, before we jump into our musher profile of the evening, any other quick news or notes that you're following on the Iditarod Insider?
No, I didn't get an opportunity to really dive deep into the Insider today. Unfortunately, this was a heavy work day for me. But I mean, I would rather not see any news actually going on. That means that it was pretty quiet and mushers were doing what they do, enjoying the river. I mean, I see that we've got Bryce Mumford and Joshua Robbins kind of camping out right there just outside of Ruby. We've got a heavy group in Ruby. And yeah, I mean, the top 10 have all done their 8-hour and their 10-hour rests. And that's really going to dramatically change the rest of the race, in my opinion. Because that's the race.
For sure. And remember, guys, that everybody has to take a mandatory 8-hour rest on the Yukon. And that is Ruby, Galena, Nualto, or Caltag. I believe Caltag is still considered on the Yukon. So they have to take a rest there. And if that is not on the Yukon, please give me that and we'll do a correction. Then they will go through that Caltag portage, work their way around and then up the coast. And remember, you still have to take an 8-hour rest at White Mountain. Everybody takes that rest and then on over to safety and into Nome. And they are speculating that they should have a winner sometime early Tuesday morning, I think is the projected time. That's about the same day every year. And remember, tomorrow is daylight savings time for most of us here in the U.S. So we will spring forward an hour, so they will lose an hour of sleep. But that will be made up, and most of them will have no idea
No, you don't lose an hour of sleep in the spring. You gain that hour back that you lost in the fall.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. I still have not figured out.
You don't sleep, so either way, you don't realize.
Yeah, I have not figured that out. But what that means to us in Alaska is it's going to be
lighter,
longer. So much more mushing well into the evening without headlamps, which is always good. So, Michelle, I have no idea who you're talking about on our musher profile of the evening. Who is it?
I am talking about the only musher left in the field that still has 16 dogs. Now, this could be because she is heavily mentored by Mitch Seavey, but Laura Kittleson, who is a super cute young lady that we saw traveling on our way back from Yentna to Willow, she was riding there in the back of the pack that day, Willow restart day, slurping down a bowl of soup on the trail, and I got a kick out of that, so much so that I hollered over at her and asked her if she was enjoying her dinner. And we were about, 50 yards or so from her, and I heard her giggle, turn and look at me and say that it was absolutely delicious. So let's see what we can find out about Laura. Laura was born and raised in the Pacific Northwest. She's from Battleground, Washington. She loves going hiking and swimming and really just wanted to experience Alaska based on her dad's stories. So I couldn't dive deep into Laura for you guys. I tried to. I know that she's the treasurer of the GAT corporate foundation, where they do corporate leadership and things like that. They also raise money for conservation and wildlife in Africa. That's what the GAT Foundation is all about. Now, otherwise, Laura is pretty secretive or not exposing herself to social media, which for her age is pretty unheard of these days, Robert.
It is. Anything else on Laura? I have a connection.
I'm hoping you have a connection.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the GAT Foundation. Our mutual friend, Jeremy Grant, good friend of ours, he lives in Maine. He flew out and worked with us for a couple of seasons. We're doing some social media work and some documentary stuff and some videos and all of that. And we trained his dog, Timber, for him to be a service dog. But anyway, last year, he was also working with a Iditarod musher, Gerhard Thehart, I believe is how you say his name. He is from South Africa, and they worked together in creating his web presence and his social media and all that. So our buddy, Jeremy Grant, did all of that for him. And I'm surprised to hear and glad to hear that that Laura is working with that foundation. They do a lot of very cool stuff. Definitely check them out online. But Gerhardt ran a team of dogs for Mitch last year. So I would assume that Laura was there with Gerhardt doing her qualifiers last year and then got connected that way. And then is now obviously running her Iditarod this year. And another connection there, also, Calvin Doherty, who we profiled earlier in our coverage, was also there last year at the Mitch Seavey Kennel with Laura and Gerhardt. And so they all worked together to do their qualifiers and, of course, Iditarod and whatnot. And that is the connection that I have. So if you have not, definitely go check out the GAT Foundation. And then secondly, I highly encourage you to head over to Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok and look up Jeremy T. Grant or the Timber Cross. Check that out. He does a lot of cool stuff. Obviously, he is a professional videographer and photographer. He spent this past summer, up in northern Canada with a group of polar bears. and he got some amazing photos with those guys. I know we were just out with Jeremy this past fall, and we did some training and did some pictures of some lighthouses and all that. But another very quick story, since we're doing all of these 7 degrees of separation type deal. So I was out in Maine visiting our buddy Jeremy last May, and we were 4 hours different from Alaska. And Nils and Deanna, who were the previous owners of Mushing Magazine, sent me a message as Jeremy and I were driving down the road. And Nils said, "Do you have any interest in purchasing Mushing Magazine?" on Facebook Messenger. And I looked over to my buddy Jeremy and I said, "Hey, look at this opportunity that just came in. What do you think?" And Jeremy, being Jeremy, said, "Dude, you have got to go for it." And this was about 8 a.m. Maine time, so Eastern time, so 4 hours earlier than Alaska. So I sent a message back to Nils and Deanna, and I said, "Yes, I am very interested. Let's set up a meeting." So I agreed to purchase Mushing Magazine with my buddy Jeremy in a rental car, heading up to see some lighthouses before my wife Michelle was even awake. And I remember we pulled into a gas station a little bit later on, around lunchtime, Maine time, and I texted Michelle and I said, "Hey, you gotta check out this opportunity that has come about. We have been offered the opportunity to buy Mushing Magazine." Now, it took all summer to work out the logistics, and we flew up to Nome and met with them and signed the contract and talked and did all that. But what do you think about that story, Michelle? What do you think about when I called you and I said, "We're going to buy Mushing Magazine"? What do you think?
You know what? I think that sums up our life in a nutshell. We have always gone full bore with both feet going in the same direction. As soon as I got that text message from you, I think I may have used an explicitive and asked you, like, WTF are you talking about? And you said, "Yeah, this is a serious situation. I think that we need to have a chat." And then we called each other and kind of hashed it out a little bit. And we said, well, let's see where this takes us. And lo and behold, here we are.
Here we are. And if you're not familiar, if you've literally lived under the mushing sport of mushing rock for the last 30 odd years or so, Mushing Magazine is the preeminent magazine for the sport of dog mushing. And like everything over the last few years, they had really struggled with supply issues and mailing costs and everything. And they were ready to sell. It was being printed by the folks that published the Nome Nugget, but they were very, very adamant in that whoever buys it does their best to keep the publication going, because that was sort of their passion project. It literally is the only magazine that I'm aware of on the sport of dog sledding. So we wanted to make sure that we could pay true homage and respect to all of that history that is part of Mushing Magazine. And if you don't know, we are offering subscriptions right over on mushing.com. We have several subscriptions offered. We have print subscriptions for US, Canada, and even international. We do have digital subscriptions as well. And what it is not only are you going to get print magazines, but you also get access to all of our online content, our behind the scenes content that we're doing, all sorts of cool stuff that we have planned for the next segment of the Mushing Magazine future, I guess you could say. We are planning on printing our first issue as the new owners on around the end of April, beginning of May. We're going to finish writing it up for April. It's going to be the March-April issue, and then it will be sent off to the printer, and it takes about 2 weeks or so-ish once they have all the files to print it off and send it out. But we are fully intending to keep that print magazine going. And I want to get Michelle's comment on this in just a second. But one of the things that we did when we flew to Nome is we loaded up several pallets of old Mushing Magazine issues. The entire catalog of Mushing Magazine, flew every one of them back to our headquarters right here in Willow, and we're scanning all of those in. We do 5 scans a week. We're doing that by hand on a copy machine printer, page after page after page. Michelle is doing that for us, so we are going a little bit slow there, but we're scanning those in so we can have all of that content there. And we're going to start sharing stories and interviews and photos and all of that stuff, because we literally have 30 years of material. And one other thing that we did around the same time, closed at about the same time, is we became the owners of Team and Trail. It was a newsletter / magazine that was printed from about the 60s to the early 2000s. So we have every issue of Team and Trail. We are the historians, if you will, of that side of the sport. We spent some time with Deborah Molberg, Bicknell Molberg, and her brother John. If you know mushing history, you know the Molberg name. Deborah lives up near Laconia, New Hampshire, which is big time mushing spot. We're talking Sepulveda and all of that back in the early days. And that family goes way back as well. So Michelle, what do you think? If you could sum it up in a sentence or two about our getting our feet wet, if you will, with Mushing Magazine.
Well, I just am honored that we are now the historians of all things dog mushing that were ever printed, for the most part. There are some other publications out there that we don't have our hands on yet, but maybe somebody will ask us to caretake that as well. I would love for people to reread some of the articles that I have rediscovered in my scans, because they hold still today. And that's what's really phenomenal about it. You know, Mickey and Julie Collins have been submitting articles to Mushing Magazine since its inception in 1988. And those ladies, not only do they epitomize dog mushing and the history of dog mushing, they are the lifestyle. And I know that we have a new submission from them, and I can't wait to read it and see where they're going with it now. But their articles have stood the test of time, as well as other articles in the Mushing magazines over the years. There's great articles in there about gear. There's articles about how to build a dog truck box. There's articles about building dog platforms and houses. And I mean, foot care and all of the things that are in there, they stand the test of time. And I think that that really demonstrates that this sport has grown over the years. Technology has changed for sure, but the actual nitty gritty parts of what it takes to be a dog handler and manage a dog team really hasn't changed all that much.
So our goal, probably more important goal than printing the magazine that you can hold in your hands, is both Deanna and Nils, as well as John Molberg and his sister Deborah Bicknell Molberg. We wanted to make sure that we could have a way to preserve this history. And that is our number one mission, is to preserve that. If you've listened to our podcast for any amount of time, you know that we do our best to keep the story alive. We have well over 1,000 episodes of our podcast that's been going on nonstop. We have never missed a week since 2009. Never missed a single week, guys. We have done this every week since 2009. Of our podcast in one form or another. And our goal is to make sure that there is a digital record of all of this mushing history to be preserved, not only after these folks that we sold it to are gone. Everybody's getting up in age, us included. We are in our early 50s. But our goal is to keep that as going as long as there is internet or computers, And our daughter is a partner in our business. She is planning to keep this going well after we're gone. So for the next foreseeable future, so at least 30 odd years for us, and potentially, she is in her mid-20s right now, potentially for the next 50 or 60 years, she will keep it up as well. Maybe she's not reporting, but she will at least keep up the websites of whatever that costs or takes. So at least 2 or 3 generations down the line can read about the 1988 Iditarod in Mushing Magazine, or potentially Travis Beals winning the Fish First Award right here on our podcast, The Burled Arch. I think that that's a pretty cool position, and it's one that we are not taking lightly. And one last thing that we want to mention, there has been a lot of talk about, well, you guys are kind of Alaska or Iditarod heavy. What are you guys planning on doing with that? Well,
we're not Alaska or Iditarod heavy. We are dog-powered sports.
Yep. So what are we going to do? Well, we're doing a team and trail tour in Minnesota and Wisconsin in July. And in October, I am in the middle stages, if you will, of scheduling a trip out to Sweden, Norway, and Finland for a mushing conference and veterinary conference in Sweden, driving over through Norway, and then attending the following week in the Dryland Championships in Finland. So we will be very Scandinavia heavy, if you will, in the later parts of the year. So we have a lot of things coming up in mushing for sure. So why are we talking about that here on the Burled Arch? Because history and stories is what this sport is all about. It's not necessarily who wins or who loses. Of course, we will celebrate the wins of the champion and all that, but that's not our intention here. Other media outlets can talk about that. Our goal is to share the stories, and that is why we spend so much time doing it here on this podcast and otherwise. Michelle, anything else before we close?
I cannot wait for the Lost Mittens.
Yeah, that's another project in of itself. If you'd like to learn more about the Lost Mittens project, hit me up in my DMs and I would be glad to share. That is a very cool project.
And here's why. Because in Laura's bio, it says down there at the bottom that she's writing a novel and she likes to do wood burning. And I'm just wondering how much she is taking notes on this epic journey of hers to add to her novel.
I bet she's doing quite a bit of it. And right there at the middle to the back of the pack, I'm not saying that she has time to do that sort of thing, but she is not focused solely on winning. Remember, people have different objectives to get to Nome. It could be, I just want to finish. I want to finish with a happy, healthy dog team. I want to finish with X number of dogs. I want to finish in particular time. I want to stay at this particular schedule. Whatever the strategy is, everybody has their intentions. It is not everybody's intention to win the race. I'm sure you would agree with that if you are a longtime follower of the sport. So what's going to happen in the next 24 hours or so? I would imagine that everybody will be off the Yukon. They will have taken their 8-hour break. They will be making their way over to the coast. They will be running through that Portage and Cowtag. We will hear some stories about Old Woman Cabin, I'm sure. And if you do not know the story of Old Woman Cabin, we will share that tomorrow and a little bit of personal perspective on that. And then we will get over to the coast and the infamous Peace on Earth, I believe it is, pizzas in Unalakleet. And you can, in fact, order a pizza for your favorite musher. There's all sorts of ways to do that. You can find that out on just about any Iditarod Facebook page for sure.
Now, I have to tell you, if everybody's been listening to my Restart 90-second interviews, some of those mushers tell me what their favorite toppings are.
Ooh, so take a listen if you're interested in ordering a pizza for any musher. You can do that. You can call them up and say, hey.
And some of them told me that they would love to get like 5 pizzas.
Yeah, so maybe, I don't know exactly what Laura, you did not get a chance to talk to her because she was there after we left. We left early so we could get down the trail, but maybe she has a hankering for pepperoni, or Maybe Dallas CV likes anchovies. I have no idea.
I don't know who answered those questions. You guys have to give that a listen.
You got to give it a listen. So if you're interested in ordering pizzas, you can do that. It will be delivered to them at the checkpoint. It is a very cool thing. It is on my bucket list to visit Peace on Earth Pizza.
Oh, speaking of pizza, we're having that tonight, Robert. We're making it ourselves. What did we call it last time? I said that you make Musher's Delight.
Musher's Delight.
What were your toppings?
They were, if you have never tried this, guys, this is a insider tip right here on the Burled Arch. You have to go get the non-bread pizza crust. They are absolutely amazing. You can find them right there in the grocery store. I like to use a little bit of tomato sauce mixed with a little bit of pesto. Mix all of that up real nice.
And garlic.
And garlic. Definitely some raw garlic. Mix all that up on the non-bread. Plenty of cheese, a little bit of pepperoni, some sausage, a little dusting of pizza powder, if you will. And a glob or two of ricotta cheese, and it is amazing.
You also had mushrooms and onions on it, and
oh yeah,
it was quite the delight.
So, guys, to end the show, we are about out of time, of course. What is your favorite pizza? What is your favorite pizza topping? Let us know in the comments of wherever you're listening.
Because a good half of the mushers will be in Unicolete by tomorrow evening.
If they're not there by tomorrow evening, they're getting pretty close, especially with that 8-hour rest for sure. So definitely check it out. You heard that Michelle's bucket lists were Yetna Station and now Ruby. My bucket list is the pizza place in Unicolete.
I'd like to go to Unicolete.
So we will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night. Goodbye.
Are you a fan of the great outdoors? Do you enjoy the thrill of speed and adventure? Then listen up. Introducing Mushing, your ultimate guide to the exciting world of dog-powered sports and mushing. Whether you're a seasoned musher or just starting out, Mushing has got you covered. Get ready to immerse yourself in captivating stories of incredible sled dog races, expert training tips from seasoned professionals, and gear reviews to help you make the right choices for your team. From the breathtaking landscapes of Alaska to the snowy trails of Scandinavia, Mushing takes you on a thrilling journey through the world of dog-powered sports. Don't miss out on the latest issue, packed with exclusive interviews with top mushers, in-depth articles on sled dog nutrition, and stunning photography that will transport you to the heart of the action. So whether you're dreaming of competing in the Iditarod or simply want to learn more about this incredible sport, Mushing is your go-to resource. Subscribe now and get ready to unleash your passion for mushing. Visit our website at mushing.com or find us on your favorite podcast platform. Mushing, where the spirit of adventure meets the power of the pack.
Hey guys, Robert here. Thanks for sticking through the commercial. If you noticed, the title of tonight's show is called Fish First and BatSled. If you have not had the chance to go over to YouTube and check out Dallas CV's video of his new sled that they're calling the BatSled. It is a remarkable piece of technology. It is full of Kevlar and all kinds of fancy features that you definitely have to check out. Dallas has been known to do some amazing, innovative stuff with his dog sleds over the years, and this is no exception. It literally looks like the Batmobile. Go check it out over on YouTube or Instagram or wherever he is active. He has a lot of cool videos that looks like he did as lead up to the Iditarod, and he's dropping them, I think, every day. He did one today about what he wears on Iditarod and so on and so forth. A lot of mushers do this, but I just got a chance to watch the BatSled video over on YouTube. Go check it out. And again, thank you for sitting through the commercial. We will see you guys tomorrow.